What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Post-Gazette Pirates YouTube channel and podcast network. Noah Hiles coming to you on a Mailbag Thursday where I answer all of your questions on all things related to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Before I get into this week's questions, want to remind everyone to check out all of our work at post-gazette.com. We cover all things that go on inside the city of Pittsburgh and its surrounding communities, from sports to entertainment, art, politics, news, everything. You can read it all at post-gazette.com. Get yourself a digital subscription if you don't have one already, or I should say, check out our print product. We print on Thursdays and Sundays. So again, check everything out at post-gazette.com, including our Pirates coverage. All right, so let's get into this week's mailbag questions. We have 5 really good ones. I think we'll have a good episode here. So we'll start off with Andy asking, why is Bubba Chandler being used in a bulk role? Why not let him start games? This is an interesting question, Andy, and I'm sure something that a lot of people are wondering, because Bubba Chandler is traditionally a starter. But as I said yesterday on this channel, he's had a very, very peculiar 2025 campaign. You look at his first 11 starts. He goes 2-1 with a 203 earned run average, 48 2/3 of innings of work. Opponents had a 541 OPS against him. 63% of his pitches were thrown for strikes, and 5 of his 11 starts went for 5 innings or more. Now, it's worth remembering that the beginning of that workload is when he was on a volume buildup. So he wasn't allowed to go more than 2 or 3 innings, or his pitch count couldn't exceed 50 to 60. So that's why that 5+ inning start number is 5 out of 11, or at least you would think. Then you go to June until now. His final 13 starts in AAA were not very good. He went 3-5 with a 5.96 earned run average. He only threw 51 1/3 innings over 13 starts. So hardly any more innings, despite making 2 more starts compared to the first sample size, and 871 OPS for opponents against Chandler and that 13 start group that we're talking about post-June. Still hit the strike zone just as consistently. I mean, 62% of his pitches were thrown for strikes, but only 4 of those 13 starts resulted in him getting to the 5th inning and beyond. So he struggled. I mean, that is not a good stat line. It's probably the worst production he's had on the mound since the first half of his first full season as a pitcher, which was in 2022 in High A. He was originally a 2-way player, of course. Starts being a PO, pitcher only, in 2022. Struggled the first half of the season in High A Greensboro, but then really locked in and figured it out. And the Pirates are looking for him to do the same now at the major league level. And I think that's why you're seeing him work out of the bullpen. I think they found it important that he gets a taste of the major leagues. I think they wanted him to earn the opportunity to be a starter. I think you could argue he probably should have been in the starting rotation after that first stretch in May, and then maybe things would have been differently if he just got to the major leagues then. But he didn't. So now this is a guy who's coming up in a long relief role. He's still someone who can start games, and I think he will start games later in the season. But sorry, there had to pause. Hotel room service coming in here trying to change the beds while I'm working. But back to the point at hand, he's a guy that I think will still make starts for the major league team this year. I think they want to just see how he looks on the major league mound in a long relief role before that happens. So expect to see him utilized in a similar role to what we watched Braxton Ashcraft take on earlier this year, where he'll get 2 to 3 innings at a time in a long relief role, and then probably by September, we see him make a few starts before this season's over. I get the strategy. I still think he probably could have been up here earlier, either as a starter in late May, or if this was the reliever plan, they probably could have brought him up to do this post-deadline. And I know that was only 20 days ago, but those 28 days matter. He probably could have pitched 4 or 5 times in the major leagues by now if this was the plan to get him innings as a relief pitcher. So that's my thoughts on the situation. Next question comes from George. He wants to know how much of Andrew Heaney's move to the bullpen had to do with his innings bonus. So Heaney, as of the time of recording, I'm recording this Wednesday afternoon, has 119 2/3 innings pitched. Now, he very well could pitch sometime Wednesday and eclipse 120 innings, which would get him a $50,000 bonus. He signed with the Pirates in late February, and part of his contract, the guaranteed money was $5.25 million. And then he had $750,000 worth of incentive bonuses, all revolving around innings pitched milestones. So the 120 mark was the first one. He could get up to $50,000 if he exceeds 120 innings. He's 1 out away from doing that as the time of this recording. 130 innings, he would get a $100K bonus. And then everything after that, 140 and beyond, he gets $150,000. And a lot of people, or not a lot of people, some people made the connection when he was relegated to the bullpen, made the connection to the decision that they made last year with Rowdy Tellez. With 1 week left in the season, they designated Rowdy Tellez for assignment, who was just 4 plate appearances away from a 6-figure performance bonus. This is a little bit of a different situation. One, they didn't cut Andrew Heaney. He's still on the team. They're giving him an opportunity to pitch. That's the first thing. 2, they made this decision in mid-August rather than the final week of the regular season like they did with Tellez. 3, Tellez was performing at a pretty high level in the second half of the season. If you look at his numbers, June 1st and beyond, he finished the regular season, June 1st and beyond, with a 120 weighted runs created plus, which means he was 20% above league average compared to major league hitters. He was hitting at a 20% higher production level than major league average. And yeah, he faded a little bit in September, but that move came, like I said, final week of the season to a guy who had been one of, if not the best hitter on their team from June 1st and beyond. And they did it in the final week of the season to get guys playing time. This is a little different. Andrew Heaney has not thrown the ball well since June. In 6 of his final 7 starts, he failed to get past or get to the 5th inning. So he could have eclipsed some of these innings milestones if he just did what a starter is supposed to do in the big leagues, and that's get to the 5th inning. But he didn't. And they're still giving him opportunities to pitch. I still think he will get past the 130 mark, although he should already be past it right now. Something that he admitted himself. As I said earlier this week on this channel, he admitted he didn't deserve the opportunity to start games. I still think we're going to see Andrew Heaney pitch frequently in a long relief role. When you look at it, they're going to be trotting out a lot of young arms for the remainder of this season. Guys like Chandler, who are also going to join Heaney in the bullpen. But I would think other young pitchers might be up here. I mean, Yohan Oviedo rejoined the team Wednesday. I think Hunter Barco could be here by the end of the season. You have Braxton Ashcraft on an innings limit. You have Mike Burrows. His workload's being monitored. They're going to start monitoring Skeens' workload again soon, or I'm sure he's only going to be allowed to go 5 innings for a few starts here and there. They're going to need guys that can cover innings. And in blowout situations, rather than throwing a rookie out there and allowing things to get worse and ruining that guy's confidence, you can throw a veteran out there who can just eat it. And even if he does well, he can be in that situation. He can handle it, where if you throw someone out there who might not be prepared to pitch in that situation, it could go south. So the fact that Andrew Heaney's still on this team, one, that's the biggest differentiating factor. And the fact that he wasn't performing well. Now, you can argue that other starting pitchers aren't performing well. The difference there is Andrew Heaney isn't going to be on this team next year. Mitch Keller still has 3 years of control, as do, all the other guys that are typically struggling right now on the mound. All of those guys have years of remaining control. Andrew Heaney, to my understanding, is the only player on the active roster, pitching-wise, that is on an expiring contract. So that's the deal. You're going to give the guys who can give you something next year more opportunities ahead of him as well. If they wanted to avoid this whole bonus situation, they could have just cut him. And candidly, I think it would have made sense to cut him on August 1st and give some of these innings, even in a relief role, to younger pitchers. But they wanted him there to eat innings in blowouts, or just to cover innings when they need someone to step in a tough situation. They wanted his veteran presence, and that's why they kept him. And I still think he's going to get some of his bonus incentives. And the reason he's not going to get all of them is he just wasn't good enough. Because if he was a productive starting pitcher, and if he was able to continue the production that he had in April and May, he would have been good enough to get traded at this deadline, and he would have easily eclipsed those milestones on another team. James wants to know, had Matt Arnold been hired instead of Ben Cherington, do you sincerely believe the Pirates would be substantially better? Who's to say Nutting wouldn't have interfered with his trades like he did with Cherington's trade of Bednar last season? James, this is a really good question. Here's my stance on it. I think it's very easy to say, yes, the Pirates would be in a better spot. Arnold has had a much better record in trade returns, and that's, I think, the most damning thing of Cherington's tenure here. He's just failed to even get equal value for players that he's traded away. It seems like he's lost the majority of the big trades that he's made in his 6 years in Pittsburgh. And when you're a small market team and you're starting a rebuild, that can't happen. You have to get at least equal value. And he hasn't done that for a lot of the big deals that he's made. So I think Matt Arnold probably, could have got better results in the trades. But I think there are other factors that started at the beginning of Cherington's tenure that would have also been really challenging for Matt Arnold. You got to think of the timing here. Cherington started during a pandemic. It's really hard to analyze your new staff. It's really hard to convince ownership that you need to invest in different areas when you start in 2020, when no one's making money and the world's shut down and you're just trying to ensure no one gets laid off. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just pointing out reality that I'm sure, Bob Nutting hasn't necessarily been known as a guy who loves throwing money around, right? And in a year where they didn't make a ton because of the pandemic, I'm sure that hindered the start of this regime. Now, it's year 6. It's gone on too long, and there are certain things, like I said, that aren't pandemic related and have gone wrong, like the trade returns. You got to get those right. And they got those wrong prior to COVID and post-COVID. So that's something to note right there. But I do think Arnold would have had a greater challenge here in Pittsburgh just because of the timing of it all, and maybe a little bit because of ownership as well. I do think his trade returns would have been better. And because of that, the team probably would be in a better state. But I don't know if you could just say, well, if Arnold were here, this team would be like the Milwaukee Brewers. I don't think that that's the case. The Pirates just had a very, very unlucky, sense of timing starting a rebuild during the pandemic, and they had a very slim margin of error, and they didn't get anything right in that margin. So it went poorly. But I do think there are some challenges that Cherington faced that would have been very, very difficult for any general manager in baseball to face, especially with the limited resources that come when you're running this franchise. Not excusing him, but I do think those factors would have been tough for Arnold. So, yeah, I do think they would probably be in a better place, but I don't know how much better. Devin wants to know if Kutch resigns for the 2026 season. Is there any chance we see him get some work at first base? I don't know. I mean, this is a conversation I feel like we have every year, right? I don't think so. I mean, I think the Pirates are very happy with what they have in Spencer Horwitz right now. Kutch could be a right-handed platoon. I think maybe that would make sense. It depends. I wouldn't say he's first in line to be that platoon guy, though. I could see Joey Bart doing that. I could see Rafael Flores doing that. It'd be interesting. I haven't really heard any indication that that's something Andrew would be up for, but who knows? I don't know. And like the whole Kutch 2026 thing, I think it's a big mystery right now. And I don't know if first base would really change anyone's mind on either side there. Final question comes from Matthew. It seems to be smart business to try to sign minor league superstars to long-term deals as they first reach the majors. Red Sox with Roman Anthony, or even before him. Brewers with Jackson Chourio. Should the Pirates approach Konnor Griffin with such a deal? What would it take? I think they would be wise to do so. I mean, I don't think you could do it this early. I mean, Roman Anthony signed his after making it to the big leagues. Chourio, did he sign his before his big league debut? I mean, some guys have, like Tristan Campbell. Is that right? Campbell? I forget. Is that his first name? The infielder, part of the big three prospects. I think it's Tristan Campbell, and I apologize if it's not. Is it Christian Campbell? something Campbell, signed an extension before his big league debut, I believe. And there have been other guys. I mean, this is a thing that's kind of started all the way back. The Phillies, I think, were the first to do it with Scott Kingery, and that deal actually didn't work out at all. But I mean, the Braves did it early on with Acuna and Albies, and we've seen it throughout baseball, and I think the Pirates would be wise to do it. I mean, they did it early on for Starling Marte. They did it early on for Gregory Polanco. One of those two decisions worked out. They did it pretty early for Kutch. I think he signed the extension right after his first All-Star season, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I think it's good to get in early on these guys. What would it take? I don't want to speculate numbers. I think it would probably take something higher than Roman Anthony, though, because Konnor Griffin reached Roman Anthony's ceiling right now, his status, and he's younger and plays a higher value position. He plays shortstop. That's higher than a corner outfield spot, which is where Anthony's playing right now. Even if Anthony's a center fielder, I still think shortstops have a higher value spot. So I would think you would probably need a deal with a lot of years. I mean, maybe 8-9 years and a higher sum than what Anthony signed for. But I think you got to wait to do it until Konnor Griffin gets to the major leagues. Now, don't wait too long. But I think that once you feel confident that he can do what he's doing in the minor leagues and the major leagues, once you see it in a small sample size, or even when he gets there, do it. Get him early. I think it's a great idea. Now, would he go for it? I don't know. I bring this up with every contract extension that's brought up when it's asked about Skeens, Chandler, whoever, all these young talents. Money's part of it, but you got to think these guys want to win as well. And if you're giving them a big chunk of the pie, they're probably wondering, well, what else are you going to spend? Who else are you going to sign to stay around me? And at the end of the day, these guys want to win. They're not signing up for any more of what's currently going on in Pittsburgh. If things are better and if they're winning, I think they could be easily swayed into an extension. Maybe not easily swayed, but I think the Pirates could get one of their young guys, one of their top prospects, or even, someone who's in the major leagues to sign up for a little bit more. But right now, I think money's part of it for sure, but I think winning also matters. If they're still struggling like they are next year, I think it's going to be a lot harder to sign a Konnor Griffin, a Bubba Chandler, a Paul Skeens, whoever, to any type of extension, because these guys want to know that, okay, you're willing to invest in me, that's great, but I need to see you invest in the whole team, because they failed to do that. And players have voiced that, from McCutchen to Skeens. They want to see something different this offseason. They want to see the roster get a bigger investment. And if all of that money goes into one player, that's not going to change much for the big league club. So I think winning is part of it. And then after that, yes, then they can talk. And it's still not going to be cheap. So that's what I have for this week. Thank you all for tuning in. My name is Noah Hiles. Check out all of my work at post-gazette.com. Get yourself a digital subscription if you don't have one already. And be sure to follow along with all of our coverage here on the Post-Gazette Pirates YouTube channel and podcast network.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.